Hey there. Thank you
Hello,
everybody for
hello.
joining in. I'm Dr. Trishala Chopra, your host for tonight. Welcome to my first series podcast with the Wellness Live. And I'm so excited that I have someone really amazing on my first show. So, welcome, Dr. Neha. She's a behavioral psychologist. And today we are going to dive into the most not spoken topic, which is the emotional eating. So, welcome aboard, Dr. Neha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Trishala. And thank you actually for choosing this topic because anybody who follows me on Insta knows that food and mood is really close to heart to
Really?
me. And I genuinely, honestly feel that, you know, nobody is spared by ups and downs and emotional eating, really. Like, not even the best of the best ones. We are all in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we all go through this silently every single day without really giving a name to it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, emotional eating means I don't eat anything at all.
Oh,
So, I
wow.
literally go on a complete starvation mode till my stress actually comes down. So, everybody has their own definition of where is
Yeah.
this coming from. So, that's why I thought that this live would be really helpful for people who are actually going through so much in their life and not really able to understand what it is. So,
Mhm.
Neha, let's dig in straight into the topic. So, can you
Great.
please explain a bit more about, what is emotional eating and why is it such a common behavior?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think first of all, it's very interesting that you ask because I think, Trishala, we just use these terms emotional eating, binge eating, stress eating so loosely and so interchangeably that I really feel that it is one of the most common but least understood, phenomenons around here. And these are actually pretty complex behavioral patterns that are rooted in psychology. The roots are actually nothing but, our brain's natural response to go seek pleasure, to go seek pleasurable experiences all the time. And don't ask me why do we need to seek pleasure all the time, but because I think that's just the way human beings are wired. But yeah, well, at the end of it, we just need to understand that eating is nothing but a behavior, and all human behaviors, are rooted against certain core principles. And I'm just going to touch upon three here that are
Yes.
directly related to emotional eating. The
Yeah.
first one is the reward system, in our brain. Our brain works on the reward system. So every time you go eat something carby, starchy, sugary, hyper palatable, uh, you are releasing a reward
Yeah.
mechanism in your brain, which is nothing but dopamine. So, which
Yep.
means even before you eat something, you are anticipating feeling good. And that's exactly why, you keep craving something till you lay your hands on those foods, or you can't stop thinking about something, or if you lay your eyes on something, you just have this uncontrollable desire to reach out. It's pretty much like any other addiction,
Yeah,
you know.
that's how,
But
these applications have actually come in. So all these food applications there where we are literally thinking about it and you simply go on it, order, and it's there. So that
yeah,
instant reward mechanism has now
hmm,
actually given so many applications to come live that
yeah,
even before we think about it, I mean, I remember last Sunday I was just sitting and I don't know how Zomato actually came to know, but it just said, idli, idli, idli. So, it was like, oh my God, this is so spooky, easy in my mind that I'm literally thinking about having a idli right now. So, these
yeah,
reward
yeah,
mechanisms, actually, most of our social media and ecosystems are based on
right,
it. So, food is
right.
definitely one of the biggest things here. So, I'm glad you
Yeah,
touched
and
upon
and
it, Neha.
the real problem is when your brain gets used to these dopamine responses, and then it becomes a pattern. It becomes a pattern that you just can't break.
Yeah.
So the second one is just your emotional regulation, which is nothing but you are using food to deal with all sorts of emotions, your negative emotions, your positive emotions. Your negative could be just feeling angry, or feeling tired, feeling lonely, or just feeling sad for whatever happened that day. Or it could be a positive emotion, like oh, an exam is over, or it's my friend's birthday, let's just celebrate something. But what we don't really realize is that these coping mechanisms are all short-lived. So once that feeling passes, that feeling of happiness passes, you're back to a baseline. So you're back to where you started. So if you started from a point of feeling tired or anxious, you're back at that, and that is not going away because you have never really solved the root cause. It's not a permanent fix.
And that's what gets carried away with guilt, right? Because you're trying to fill a void. And when you are done with it, when you have rewarded your system, when you've got that kind of dopamine hit, after that, you are actually waiting to feel better. But you don't. You actually feel more miserable about what just happened. And the whole guilt cycle will continue. So, I have so many patients, especially on Monday calls, they start with this: I'm sorry, doctor, I was cheating. Like, where are you cheating with? Like, did you steal the food? What did you actually try and do, right? So they say, no, I cheated because I had something which I shouldn't. So this guilt mechanism which is coming up with it, Neha, I mean, can you put a little bit more light on this, that, how is it actually a vicious cycle that we are stuck in? And why is it so difficult to actually come out of it? We know something is not right. Guilt gets carried away with it, but we again repeat the same behavior. So can you please put in a little light upon why exactly this is happening?
I'll come to that, but so I was just exactly finishing up. So it's not one thing, Trishala, that is like making you do things again and again. So the third mechanism that I was going to touch upon is again like a learned behavior. And this is exactly where this ties into your question. So learned behaviors could be something which, again, it could be based on childhood traumas. It could be your current environment. It could be trigger people. It could be trigger places. It could just be work. It could be just your everyday stressors, But the real flex is to understand what these triggers are for you. And these could just bring in, like sometimes some foods could just bring in nostalgic values. They don't mean anything in the current real-time actual scenarios. You are really going in not for the food. You may not even love what you're eating, but you're going for the feeling, the familiar feeling that it brings you. So you're going for that familiar feeling, So why have you ever noticed that if you are going, if we are out on a long foreign holiday, for example, the minute you come back, why is dal and rice an emotion? Why is it that every time, do you even love dal rice on everyday basis?
I don't.
No, nobody cares for it. Nobody is like, or maybe there might be some people who do. But you come back to that feeling of home. That's what you associate with. Or your trigger people. Sometimes it's just like your dadi or your nani overfeeding you every time because they are coming from a point of unconditional love for you. So, it is the entire environment, the entire mechanism that plays a role in like how connected you are with your personal self. What is your everyday lifestyle looking like? What are your trigger points? How vulnerable are you to these triggers? Do you have active coping mechanisms figured out when it strikes? So, it's a combination of all these factors of why we would keep going back. If it was so easy that I could tell you one solution to it and people could work on it, I mean, world would have been such an easy place.
It would have already been in a bottle somewhere, worked upon by some company, like a magic pill, and it would have been given, So that magic pill would have been there, and I think you and me would have taken a step back and just see people changing just having the pill. So sadly, that's not. And I'm
Right.
so glad that you
Right.
touched upon this nostalgia, because most of us are so busy in the whole guilt part that we forget that where exactly this is coming from. I have so many patients, they eat food because वो खाना waste नहीं होना चाहिए.
Yeah,
So they
of
actually
course.
overeat, and they are okay even having a blood sugar spike, or okay feeling stuffed at the end of the meal, but they will still continue eating because
Yeah.
ये खाना waste हो जाएगा and I have to do that. So even that is emotion.
Yeah.
That is something where it's coming from, that this wastage is not allowed. Maybe it could have been, like you said, could be a childhood habit, or they might have seen their mothers doing it, and it's just continuing just because this is what feels the most comfortable to you. So
Right.
even that comes out of mechanism, and I think food for most of us is comfort. We
Yeah.
reach out to food just to feel better. Like you said, even if we don't like it, we
Yeah.
still reach out. Like foreign countries se pehli cheez aake, we could have easily ordered from any of the restaurants, right? Ki easy hai, chalo Indian khana khate hain. But sadly we don't do that.
Yeah.
No matter how tired we are, we actually wait to have that ghar ka ubla hua dal chawal, and it just feels like divine that pata nahi humne kya kha liya. So this again,
Right.
this emotions and getting linked to it is something that we all have to address. We all know our trigger points. It's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
we are not aware about it. Somewhere we know what could trigger us, but
Yeah.
we still choose to do it the other way around. So I think, Neha, most of the people are not aware about the coping mechanisms. Like, if not food, what else? This question comes up very often कि आप मुझे बोल रहे हो कि कुछ और करो, but क्या करूं? I
Yeah.
want to eat at that time. अगर आप उसके अलावा मुझे कुछ और करने बोल रहे हो, so what it could be, right? So what, according to you, Neha, are different coping mechanisms that people can actually look forward for, which doesn't include food all the time?
Yeah. Yeah. So, Trishala, I get this question a lot because a lot of patients who come to me are just trapped. And like you said, they do understand that, something is amiss. They have lost that access, that connection, and they just don't know where to begin. They need the how to,
Yes.
they need the magic pill, basically. But really, my top advice to anybody who comes to me like this is that you need to build your own feel good toolkit. So there's no one, one size fits all kind of an approach. It's not like, yeah, the internet is full of, the mechanisms. And of course, there is a standardized framework and all of that. But you know what makes you happy. You know what your triggers are. You know, whether it is a bad boss, or whether it is work, or whether it's just home. Sometimes people are just triggered by home environments, So you really need to be aware of where you're coming from. And once you bring that awareness, then it's much easier to predetermine, alternate ways to decompress on a daily basis. And again, here I'm not even talking about, these long-term traumas or something significant or like a life event that has happened, but chote daily stressors, and 90% of us are bogged down by just that. Only 10% of us might have something high octane happening in life. So basically, just to predetermine what is it that could bring you that daily happiness or that feeling of unwind. It could be sitting with a book, or could be just a hot shower. It could be something like just massaging, like a home pedi-mani. It could be watching your favorite content. It could just be watching Coffee with Karan. It need not even be something, oh my God, mindfulness, matlab kuch yoga meditation karna chahiye. That kind of stuff. Whatever brings you joy. Okay, that's the number one thing. And this is going to take time. Okay, once you choose to replace, because your brain is always like, your brain is by now trained
Correct.
to feeling good with food. So you have to repeatedly message it. You have to repeatedly send alternate messaging saying, nahi, khana nahi, let's do this.
Correct.
Let this be,
The
the
mind body connect.
alternative.
Yeah.
The mind body connect. You keep bombarding it with, alternate stimulus, and one fine day it'll respond. But what happens is, half the times people give up. Beach mein, why? Because food is the easiest thing. Ye
Instant
kaun
rewards.
instant gratification, and like one button, na? If it's Swiggy, something is home or something is sitting there ready at home, you pop, you feel good, baat khatam. Like, who is going to go in for this,
कौन करेगा? It's
massaging
easier.
and wo,
Absolutely.
exactly. So this is like the first connection. The second one are the other ones are more behavioral, or more of, how can you act on things. Like, for example, just take your guilty snacks or your culprit foods out of your pantry or out of your kitchen. If you know that you have stocked something and it's sitting in that dabba, it's just easy. Like, our brain is pretty intelligent like that. It knows exactly what it needs to do, and within half a minute, before you know, you're gone, you've eaten, and the damage is done. So there are times when you just have to go cold turkey, where don't buy it, don't stock it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. But if you're a part of joint family, or if you have kids where not stacking or like not storing is not an option, then you have to be a little intelligent around it. For example, don't store it in a glass dabba and keep it in front of you. Put it in a steel ka dabba, hide it away somewhere, tuck it in where it is used only by people who need it. Or if you need to give something in your child's dabba, you do it at that time, you again put it away, and then it's out of your sight, right? If so, you are a household where mithai keeps coming in and kisi ka kuch hua and whatever, and there is always, food flowing at home, and most of our Indian households are like that. Then you just need to set a few food rules, and the food rules are not like you're not going to look at that food. Just one round of passing of that mithai, everybody takes a piece and you give it away. There are enough and more people who, deserve to have that more than us, or rather can afford to have that more than us. Yeah. So these kind of simple mindful rules which you set as a family, there needs to be a dialogue around this too. You can't be the only person just fighting this battle by yourself. So
that support community is very, very important that we need. And like you said, right, Neha, that wo dabba sirf tabhi nikalo ki jab you have to give it to anybody, right? Like, first of all, I tell my patients that why is that even in your house? Like, my first question to them is ki वो कोई भी क्यों खा रहा है? First of all, अगर वो खा रहे हैं, so there has to be some rules that has to be set around. Like, I remember, Neha, when I was growing up, me and my brother, we used to eat biscuit, okay? But वो मम्मा वो छोटा पैक लाके दी जिसमें 4 biscuits होते थे, and every Friday that 4 biscuits, 2 will be with my brother, 2 will be with me, and that was it. So we had no option because वो छोटा सा packet था. So many people might just simply put it in their mouth when they are putting it in their bachcha's dabba, right? And that's okay. I think that's the first step you have already taken, is keeping it away. For maybe if you would have done it 5 times a day, आप उस पे से सीधा 1 time a day पे आ गए हो.
Correct.
So even that's progress. That's first step that you have already taken. And then eventually you will actually see that, how is it benefiting? What is it working?
Right.
So these are some fabulous tips, Neha.
And to be honest with you, Trishala, and you would agree with me, I tell my clients, I mean, there's no reason why your kids should be having that kind of processed snack. I mean, and you are an expert in that, on what it will do to your cortisol levels, including kids, and how that spirals pretty quickly. So nobody really, as you said, nobody needs to have it. But agar aise hua that for whatever unavoidable reasons, there are mechanisms. And, in parallel, while you hide away the unhealthy stuff, it's also equally important. So what, like bhook laga, if it's a physiological hunger, you cannot not eat because there's nothing at home. So in parallel, you have to be well planned and prepped for healthier alternatives to all of this. Wo nahi khaoge, so what will you eat? So maybe your cut fruit bowl, or your carrot and cucumber sticks that you'll dip in your hummus, or your dips, whatever it might be. So you want to make sure that you have planned for it, or your maids are trained for it, and it's sitting somewhere very, very accessible, Because there's actual research that says that your probability of making healthier shifts is much more and faster if you always find a healthy alternative in easy access.
Correct.
And this is where the entire meal prep and plan and the consistency and the intent comes in.
Absolutely. And Neha,
Yeah.
I mean, we covered 2 points, right? First point is, how do we actually navigate out of food? Forget healthy, unhealthy, second optional. It's important to first understand that what can you do about this emotion that's cropping up right now. It's not like कि अगर आपको भूख नहीं है तो just simply binge on carrot sticks or binge on cucumber sticks. We're not telling that. We are just saying that first step is to identify what your triggers are.
Yeah.
The second steps are, how do we actually work around it? What can we do it? So, I have so many patients saying कि मुझे chocolate का craving हो रहा है, can I have dates instead?
Yeah.
So my first instant question to them is, why do you want to have a chocolate or a date? Please explain that to me. And how is it going to make any difference to your cravings? Because after you are done with getting that reward of that sweetness, आप दोबारा उसी के पास वापस जाओगे next time जब कोई भी चीज आपके ऊपर आ जाएगी. And nowadays I've started seeing this, that people stuck in the traffic jams. Now the food is now available right in the traffic jams. So you have like peanuts wala and chana wala, and the frustration is actually getting out on the accessibility that we already have. So my first question to them is to understand that what can you do about this frustration. So first point is, when you're stuck in a traffic, आप क्या कर सकते हो? Traffic है, हमें पता है वो traffic होता है.
True.
रोज वही time पे होता है. It's our everyday kind of route. If you're repeating it every single day, it's important to check what's up with the wiring of the brain.
Correct.
Because either you make peace with it, there's no point spoiling your health just because there is everyday same usual traffic on your route. And if that is happening, take help. People will think कि अरे traffic में फंसना है, frustration तो होना normal है. But I want to mention this over here that normal नहीं है. कुछ तो हो रहा है, because it's coming from somewhere at the back end. And you might need help. So, like people like you who are constantly 24/7 talking to patients about how to navigate through this is, something that has to be brought on the table, that you can take help. It's not 100%. Like you only have to go to a professional when you are sick, when you have some major symptoms, when you are unable to take care of yourself. If you are identifying these kinds of behaviors, it's important to address it when it's starting. Because before it becomes like a full-blown symptom in your life, good to stop it where it's actually starting. So, awareness, I think, Neha, is going to be like a very, very big thing over here. And I think that's what you mentioned, that the first step is awareness. So one is,
so when my patients come to me, instead, most of them are overwhelmed with what should I eat and how much should I eat? And almost nobody asks themselves, why am I exactly eating this right now?
So true. That's so true. So that actually brings me to my next question for you, Neha, that, where do you think mindfulness actually plays a role in overcoming emotional eating?
Well, first of all, mindfulness is pretty much where it all starts. Like I said, asking yourself the right whys of why is, and so it all ties down to you make peace with your emotions. What are you feeling right now? You learn to acknowledge those emotions. You learn to, rather than just masking it with food or something else, or just going out for like dressing up and going out for dinners and whatever it is, that how was it that I was feeling today? Why did I need to, what was that need? Just break. And hello?
Sorry, I lost you there. We can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you now. Yeah. We lost you again.
Something.
Yeah, now I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you can?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. So, we really need to practice to practice feeling all the emotions, you know. That's so otherwise what happens is it's just a cyclic pattern where you are either brushing things under the carpet or masking it with something that is extremely temporary and not sustainable. And there's a good chance, like you mentioned, that once that episode is over, you're feeling even more upset, angry, miserable, helpless, and all of that. And you're just back to square one. So the starting point is to learn and recognize what the actual problem is. Is food the problem or is it the solution? You know? So like you are just trying to make food the villain, you're just trying to demonize the food. But eating part, like I said, is actually just the behavior. It's just, it's not the real problem here. The real problem is something else.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said
So,
that feel the emotions. Like,
mhm.
why do you want to mask it up? If you're
Yeah,
angry, you're angry. If you're
yeah,
upset, you're upset.
exactly.
It's
And
okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. As human beings, we are given these emotions so that we can actually feel them.
yeah, and similarly with good emotions, like if you are watching what you eat, but if it's your friend's birthday and you're genuinely happy about it, you go out and you just say, hey, it's her birthday, I'm celebrating, and eat that little piece of cake.
And it's done.
So,
You
and
felt the
it's
emotion
done.
and it's done.
It's done. And trust me, and that's what I tell my clients, the way your body is going to respond, and you would know this, like the glucose response of your body when you're doing it in a non-stressed, peaceful, happy environment is going to be so different than when you're like fretting about it and oh my god, what did I do, and you're guilt tripping and you're spiraling, and you know so it's
Yes.
this is the entire dynamic, really.
It's the hormonal
So
pump. So, when patients with diabetes say कि मैंने कल तो खाया था लेकिन मेरा sugar नहीं बढ़ा, but
yeah,
आज मैंने खाया तो same time पे sugar क्यों बढ़ा? So, there are so many emotions that actually play a role over here. We can see it in the form of CGMs, that what the emotions are actually doing. And in fact, it's so funny. I was wearing a CGM device just because I was
yeah,
trying it for a company, and I was on the consultation, and some courier guy, he was ringing the bell literally 10-15 times, and then he was calling on my phone. That really made me very angry. So
yeah,
my blood sugar actually shot up all the way to 200 just because I was angry, and I don't have
yeah,
diabetes. I don't have tendency of diabetes, but the
yeah,
sugar shot up just because I couldn't really control my anger, that I'm busy and you're giving me so many calls. But as soon as
yeah,
I calmed myself down, it actually started coming down. Now imagine if I would have fueled in with some food when I was lying there
yeah.
at 200. If I
Uh-huh,
would
uh-huh,
have just gone and eaten a piece of cake or a piece of biscuit because I'm upset or
yeah,
angry, what it
yeah,
would have done to my sugar levels when I don't have diabetes. So imagine if we
absolutely.
continuously keep doing that, where are we actually reaching with it? So, thank you for actually highlighting that whole point, and
Yeah,
it's amazing. So, we towards the end, I want to discuss something very important, is importance of seeking professional help. So I did mention it just a little while back, but what, according to you, should be the time where somebody should start seeking for professional help? Like, what symptoms should people watch out for, that now it's the time to actually take care of it?
yeah, yeah. Actually, that's a great one, Trishala, because a lot of my patients, or a lot of us actually, who are living this busy, stressful urban life, we really feel trapped.
Correct.
You know there is a problem. You just have, you just don't know the source of that problem, because you're literally like a dog chasing a car. You don't even know
Correct.
why you are doing a few things that you're doing, but you're just, you know, at it.
Correct.
Um, but however, like I said, the first step is to slow down, to see what these triggers are. So if they're rooted, for example, at home, or they're rooted at work, um, they could be just, your personal personality type, where you're just prone to feeling big emotions. Sometimes that's just what happens. Like, nobody is really forcing things on you. It's just self-inflicted pressure to do things right. And a lot of that comes from, this people come with ideas of perfection when they want to get on a perfect diet, and they don't want to slip. And so it's that entire spiral of going on a super restrictive or an over exercise cycle and come back and whatever. But just coming back to your question, just to understand that, if at all you feel that you are ruminating about the same problem again and again without finding a solution to your problem. For example, your trigger person is your mama, who loves to overfeed you. She is coming from a point of, that's her love language, but you live in the same house, and that can't be the way forward. Or, a bad boss who's not going anywhere. You have to go say hello sir first thing in the morning. That also is not going away.
Correct.
So if you find yourself that in any shape or form of, if this is affecting your daily life, okay, your sense of self, your self-esteem, your confidence, or it's coming in the way of your personal relationships with people, and you go to bed with voices in your head or your thoughts, it's time to seek help. And why I find this interesting is because a lot of people would think that seeking help may not be relevant in emotional eating, because that's not
It is what
grave enough,
it is.
or that's not, it is what it is, like it's a habit
वो थोड़ी
now, and it's
जाने
not
वाला है.
it's not a big problem, it's not some trauma, for example.
Correct.
Like, a lot of people have these preconceived notions on when they should seek help. It could be like some big life event, or a loss of something, or a breakup, or whatever it might be, but something has to be a very high order.
Correct.
Emotional eating, but you don't know that honestly you are not eating the food is eating you day after day. And you are really every day and every week and every year, as this builds up, things they blow out of proportion, and that's how it works. It's not going to just land on
that is what life
is. Yeah, exactly. But like I said, just to talk to. And what happens with emotional eating, Trishala, is if you find yourself spiraling, is always good to just work with people. It may not be necessarily your friends or your family members, because everybody has issues of their own. They may not be trained, or they may not come with an objective point of view to help you, because obviously they love you and they want to comfort you, and
there's
all
a bit
of
of
that.
judgment there. I mean, obviously there's a bit of judgment. Yeah.
कुछ नहीं होता, it's okay, itna kya hai, that kind of stuff. But if you work with a life coach, for example, or if you work with a therapist, if you work with a nutritionist, and not try to solve all your problems alone, through this, you have a higher chance of reversal or managing emotions. Because I've seen that people who are trying to deal with their issues when nobody is looking, especially emotional eating kind of issues, or when they're alone, or when they're feeling lonely, there is a much higher chance of them going in for that binge, or ordering, or just giving up, than if they find a support system, like a strong accountability kind of a support system, or just go out with people. Don't be by yourself if you're feeling those kind of emotions at that point.
Oh my God, that's so, I mean, I was literally lost in what you were actually talking, because कभी इतने अच्छे से किसी ने नहीं समझाया है, even being in the medical professional or the coaching professional, it's very difficult
Yeah.
to actually find people who are talking about it like that. So Neha, there are a lot of people right now who's doing all this. I think
Mm-hmm.
every second person I know is probably into some kind of coaching about it. So,
Yeah.
like, according to you, what people should look out, because there's so much noise on social media, there's so many influencers who are talking about it, it becomes difficult for people to understand कि
Yeah.
इतने सारे लोग बोल रहे हैं, इसमें से जाना हमें किसके पास चाहिए. Like, what do you have to look out for
Correct.
when you're reaching out for help
Yeah.
for a therapist? Like, what should be the background that at least they should know about before reaching out and talking about their problems?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. Okay, it's become an extremely crowded space, and it's just ironic that we're doing this on social media. But I would say social media is not a place to judge or finalize somebody that you want to work with, especially from the kind of posts or the feeds or whatever, because this is
Correct.
highly personalized. This is highly customized. You really don't know. You can't see through a person on social media. I mean, I'm not saying everybody has hidden agendas or whatever, but sometimes there could just be a personal disconnect. Just like I, for example, have a discovery call with everybody who has an inquiry with me, and it's a free call where I just have a general chit chat with a person, not necessarily about his pain points, but a backdrop, and I tell them about me, and we just find a fit of whether we can work together. And then sometimes, we just amicably part ways, saying that I don't have the expertise to figure. Like, I
Correct.
have clients who come to me and say, "Mujhe fasting pe jana hai. I want to do these days and days of fasts. I don't even know. Not that I'm an expert on it. You might know."
Right.
And I'd be like, I'm not. I don't believe in those things. B, I don't have the expertise. So let's
Correct.
amicably part. I can't give you those kind of suggestions.
Fair enough. I
So,
mean, you're being
so
honest about it.
similarly, I would encourage every person to just make those calls and talk to people, or maybe just have one session to see. And while doing this, be extremely clear of what you want
Correct.
from the therapy or the session, or what is it that you're bringing in and what is it that you want to take away
Correct.
from. Ask pertinent questions. See, what is that right fit. It's like a marriage, to work with somebody long term, and
That's so
want to
true.
you don't want to work with like really short term goals. It's not like बहन की शादी में लहंगे में fit होना है type of an association.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
okay,
correct.
you are working on unlearning behaviors that you've built over
Correct.
years, and you need that kind of a commitment and patience, and
And
a
you
lot
need
of
a safe
self love
space.
and a safe
You need a safe
space.
space to talk about it, right? Because
Exactly.
even when I am recommending my patients to go to a therapist, I always put this point in there that please see if you are connecting with that patient intuitively. If you are
Exactly.
not feeling good about it, just because त्रिशाला ने बोला है कि ये थेरेपिस्ट बहुत अच्छी है, इसके पास आपको जाना चाहिए,
Yeah.
doesn't mean कि वो आपके लिए शायद right fit होगी. So
Correct.
also how you
Correct.
feel has to be taken into
Yeah.
accountability, because at the end it's you who is doing it, and you are living with it 24/7. You might talk to us on the call for
100%.
30-40 minutes, but बाकी का दिन तो आप actually अपने साथ रह रहे हो. So आपको उसके बाद कैसा फील
Exactly.
हो रहा है, ये बहुत जरूरी है. And it's not just in terms of emotional eating. I'm practically
Yeah.
talking about everything that you
Yeah.
take decision about your health and all.
Yeah.
So
In fact, my
that's very
standard
important.
end line is, you sleep over it and you come back to me. It's because
Correct.
a lot of time people make cold calls, or people just call in a specific set of mind, like
Yeah.
a frame of mind, where if they're like frantically looking for help or solution or whatever it might be, and at that point it may not be like the wisest decision making to go with somebody. So I would say this is a great question, and you like anybody who's looking for help should never be shy of just having these mini sessions or discovery. Ask for a discovery call.
Yeah.
Anybody who believes in a good, like they have good integrated practices resources, good principles will acknowledge, or they will encourage these kind of calls to just generally figure out first.
Connect with the pay. Yeah, yeah,
Connect.
absolutely. And it's very important. And I'm glad that, both of us are highlighting this point, that it's not just ki, oh, you liked us because we're talking right now. So, oh, we are the perfect people for you. I think you need to further
Yeah.
understand, dig deeper. What do you want? Do you think the therapist is able to provide that to you? If yes, great. If not, please find what works for you. So thank you, Neha, for highlighting this
Yeah.
point. And it
Yeah.
was a wonderful discussion. We do have some questions in the chat box. People have been really listening. Thank you so much for actually listening to us, guys. We have Chinu Paul who's asking, what is your opinion on intermittent fasting? So I'll reframe a question a bit, Neha, from the emotional eating point of view. That do you think intermittent fasting is something that should be considered before you address your emotional eating concerns? I mean, I can answer that, but I want your thoughts on it.
I was just going to say that's a question for you, Trishala. You are probably a bigger expert on this, but
Yeah.
actually take this question. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah. So it's not what are your views about intermittent fasting is I love intermittent fasting. I advocate intermittent fasting. But if the question is, I do have emotional eating behavioral pattern, and this is
Mm-hmm.
something which is recurrent. I have seen patients masking it with intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
So they actually consider fasting window ki I will work on this perfectly, but 8 hour ending eating window is mine.
Mm-hmm.
I can pretty much do whatever I want in that eating window.
Yeah.
So there are many times that I tell the patients that stop fasting. Fasting is not
Mm-hmm.
working for you.
Yeah.
You need to first address those 8 hours, because you are
Yeah.
not going to be in that 16-hour restriction for the rest of your life. Once you are off it, God forbid you're sick, you cannot do it for
Yeah.
some reason, you are out, you're traveling, then what? What about those
Yeah.
behaviors which actually comes in those 8 hour ending window?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
fasting is great. Work with your healthcare professional, see where it
Yeah.
fits in your current lifestyle. Also talk to them about what are your long-term goals, like where are you trying to reach with intermittent fasting. Just because
Yeah.
सब लोग कर रहे हैं मुझे भी try करना है is not the goal. You need to have a deeper reason why you want to do
Yeah.
that into your life. So a therapist, Neha, I, many more people can explain, make you understand if this
Yeah.
is the right fit for you. But if you are going through a pattern which is recurrent and you are
Yeah.
finding yourself hiding it behind the fasting routine, then it's time for
Yeah.
you to seek help. First, address that and then talk to your therapist to take it ahead from it.
Bingo.
So
If
I think that
same,
that
my
answers
views
your
are
question.
exactly the same. If you are using it as an easy way out or a tool to, easily skip a big window of eating and therefore get into a calorie deficit for the day,
Correct.
without really addressing what your eating window is going to look like, the higher chance that things are going to fall apart pretty quickly, because it's not very
Absolutely.
easy to sustain hunger if you are not doing it with the right mindset.
That's
So,
so
like,
true.
yeah. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
So we have
Mm-hmm.
Deepika here. She says, I eat healthy outside, but at home I eat every junk possible. Ha. This is what
I get
also
that
comes up
a lot,
very often.
actually.
Even
Yes,
even I
of
do. So I
course.
want your thoughts on that, Neha, because this is something which a lot of us are facing. I'm very even and this happens that they always order salads when they go out and they
Yeah.
know what they're doing. But
Mm-hmm.
the moment they're home, they're in their own space, there's
Right.
something which gets triggered. So I want to know how I want to know your thoughts on it.
Yeah. So it is basically, it's pretty simple, right? It's very connected to what we just spoke. When you are eating outside, you are 100% choosing what you want to do or what you want to order. Your mind is put to it. You are at a restaurant staring at a menu card, looking at your options. uh, so that's uh, the first part of, like,
You're
the
taking
mindset
time.
in which this
You're
is.
taking time to do that.
Yeah, you're taking time, so you have slowed down. and you're focusing on the right thing. When you're at home, you're feeling a lot of emotions. Bacche bhag rahe hai, somebody is yelling, somebody has made something. So that just see how trigger happy you are at home. And maybe that's just the place. There is a lot of access. There is a lot of food that you may not be choosing for yourself.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just sitting there. So that's the thing with, emotional hunger. Like the minute you disconnect, there is no access between how you're feeling and what you're doing. You just feel like you are not, uh, I mean, things are just happening to you. You are not in control of yourself. It's like, mujhe pata nahi how I popped that little piece of snack that was on this kitchen platform. If somebody asks you after the fact, you don't have a chronology on what led to what.
Correct.
Right? Uh, Whereas outside, most of these triggers are out of the picture.
Beautiful.
You
That's
have
so
withdrawn
true.
yourself from a situation and you are in this place where they serve only health food. You're feeling
Full
good about
control.
yourself. You have chosen the company that you want to dine with. So it's
Correct.
100% control of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviors.
Correct.
If you can just bring it back to your natural habitat, which is your home, because finally घर पर ही आना है. You
वहीं
can't
पे
keep
रहना है.
eating outside
That's
like
so,
that. And वहीं
yeah,
पे
वहीं
रहना
पे
है.
रहना है.
Exactly.
That is where all our triggers are, and that's where the work has to be done. So, when
Exactly.
patients tell me कि मैं कल बाहर खाने जा रहा हूँ, मुझे क्या चीज करनी चाहिए आज,
Yeah.
वही करो जो आप रेगुलरली करते हो.
Yeah.
आप एक मील के लिए बाहर जा रहे हो, enjoy karo jo kar rahe ho. What is more important is the rest of the time that you're actually spending at home.
Correct.
So that's actually very
Exactly.
good point, and thank you for putting that out, Deepika. I mean, it helps a lot
Yeah.
of us,
And like
including
I
me.
said, if your triggers are, your home environments or people or the cook or whoever it might be, who else will take charge but you? I mean, you are going to
Correct.
have to do the research, put in the work, train, have open communication channels to say this is not working out. It could be your spouse. I have
Boundaries.
so many clients, yeah, who'd say, oh, I want to eat healthy, but मेरे husband को तो यही खाना है और उसको सब like he can digest everything also.
Yeah.
So that chidchidapan of like I can't
Correct. Yeah.
control it the way I want. Yeah.
Absolutely. ये
So
हमारे साथ भी होता है. I think Neha, when you and me have not
yeah,
planned things, and when I'm busy on full day of consultations, my mom is like, क्या खाना है, क्या खाना है. I'm like,
yeah,
जो बना है वो बना लो. I will just come out and eat. So that frustration builds up, and
yeah,
without even me realizing, I've eaten what I actually didn't want to. So that
correct.
makes me aware that I'm not feeling good about what I've just eaten. Let me plan a bit more tomorrow. But this helps because I'm in my awareness state when I'm actually doing it. So
Correct.
that's superb. I think
So
Neha, to put it out
the,
there.
the the bottom line is, unless you know the source of your emotional eating,
Correct.
the emotional eating is not going away.
Correct. That's right.
So
We have next
yeah.
question here from Urmil. He's asking, emotional eating, what are the early signs to detect it in someone you know or in yourself? It's a good one.
Yeah. So it's not like there are early signs or there are late signs. A lot of times people who are doing it will start doing this in isolation. Nobody is announcing, oh, I'm emotionally eating. A lot of people may not even be aware that what they're doing is actually emotional eating. So they're just being helpless, and they're trying to just navigate their way through solutions and just keep themselves afloat.
Correct.
It all starts there. So pehle to eat whatever is available, and when, like I said, that dopamine hit, once you are used to that hit or feeling good, then that frantic search for something or the other. So for example, some of the clear signs are, if you've retired for the day, you are in the bed doing something, and I feel like having a piece of chocolate, where there is no environment, there is no
Trigger.
other stimulus or a trigger for it, but you are caught thinking about a piece of chocolate. Like you said, that is the time to ask your partner or whoever it is that why are you thinking about a chocolate right now? How was your day?
Correct.
So, this is something that we need to be aware as people who coexist in the same house. Like, she loves chocolate. Or isko to, like,
Sweet
as
tooth
thinking
hai.
adults, sweet tooth hai. As thinking adults, there is only so much benefit of doubt that we can give people. If we can make rational decisions in so many different walks of life, do so well professionally and all of that, we definitely know कि रात को 12 बजे chocolate खाने से there is more harm than health. And
Yeah.
once in a while, it's okay. But if it's happening 3 to 4 times a week, or if you're watching Netflix and if you feel like just, because it's a adat, like once I sit, a very typical one that I see is young mothers. Once the kids go to bed, it is their alone time, you know so it is their time to wind down, and they will almost always celebrate with food because finally they get control on their own time, their own thoughts, their own feelings. What they don't realize is they're battling, this feeling of probably just tiredness or this excessive pressure, the parenting pressure where you need to do everything right. But just, coming back to this question, I wouldn't categorize them as early signs or late signs. Now, late signs is when it starts showing on your body, or when the person starts expressing or emoting like a concern
Correct.
that they need help,
Correct.
but it is really for us to be vigilant about ourselves and our family members around to see what is happening. Are you the person who's like, and what is your contribution to this entire thing? If somebody is repeatedly showing distress in don't bring sweets at home, this is not good, everybody ends up eating, I end up eating, I'm gaining weight, are you the person who is bringing in stuff at home, or are you the person who's saying no, saying no or tum apna karo main. So there are a lot of spousal influences also
Oh,
in
yes.
such things, right? So where you do your thing, I do my thing, doesn't work after a point. So somewhere things need to align. So I guess, just to answer the question, like the earliest triggers would be to pick on, like I said, these cyclical patterns of wanting to feel good and then masking it with food for instant gratification, and then within no time you go back to where to the emotion that started.
So,
If
to
you
put it
find this
simply,
pattern.
eat, repent, repeat. If this
Absolutely.
is what is happening very frequently, or if you see people doing this,
Yeah.
after work, after dinner, they're constantly asking for sugar. If the sugar is not there, or if there is nothing sweet in the house, they're pretty much going themselves looking for things. If it's not there, getting
Yeah.
irritated, removing that frustration on people around. And kuch
Yeah.
nahi hai, to they are ordering in every single day just
Mm-hmm.
because they want to do what they have to do. For our
Yes.
loved ones, it's the sign to actually check in that something is going on and it needs more attention. And with that, it brings to the last question, and that is also a good question for us to summarize what we spoke today. So, Neha, the question is how to resist emotional eating. It happens frequently with me. We have covered a lot of it. So, if you have to give 5 takeaway points of with respect to this question and with respect to these lives, what would be your 5 takeaways from today's life?
Oh, well, yeah. If somebody heard us from start, I think we have covered this question pretty much
Yeah.
everywhere. Uh, but like I said, number one is to begin that awareness and
Yeah.
connection with yourself. So come
Correct.
in with the right intent. B, create your own toolkit, um, which which has a lot of non-food items on it. Not lot of, like most
Correct.
of them should, like all of them should be non-food items. Third would be to act on it behaviorally, just to act and have a very solution oriented approach. If your kitchen is you know faltering at some level by offering the wrong kinds of food, then how can you streamline it? So just action points, and we also discussed what those
Yeah.
action points
Yeah.
were. And lastly is seeking help, because I think, Trushala, finally at the end of it all boils down to acceptance. And why are certain things happening? And I always maintain that it's not like with all these actionable points we are going to be able to eradicate emotional eating. No, that will never happen.
We should
Emotional
not.
eating, and we should not, and you can't. You just can't. It's a very natural part of life. Life is dynamic, things happen, and you are going to react and respond based on that. So
You should react.
emotional
You're a
eating,
human being.
absolutely. It's not going anywhere, but you should have enough intervention and enough help that you should be able to choose. If you're eating, why are you eating? If you're not eating, why are you not eating today? And if you've already eaten certain things, then to be able to support that with an adequate, complete thought process, like a good rationalization that lets you sleep at peace. So if you yourself are not able to bring this to the table, please seek help, because like I said, and I repeat again, unless you find the source to your eating problems,
Correct.
they will always stay. They're never going away. Yeah.
Thank you for those amazing 5 takeaways. 2 more points to add, which I think could be the takeaway from this, along with whatever Neha mentioned, is address your thoughts. Let the thoughts come in. Give yourself that 5-10 minutes in the day where you are allowing yourself to feel what you want. It could be basically taking a pillow and shouting on it. It could be sitting with a book and simply scribbling on it, or it could be sitting in front of a wall and staring it for 10 minutes. Let your thoughts come in, because your thoughts are coming there for a reason. Journaling helps if people like to journal. Otherwise, sometimes just screaming them out, getting them out of your system does help you feel a lot better. And if you continuously do that every time you're getting a thought like this, I do it. I personally do it. Like I said, when the call started, I'm not somebody who will go to food. I will stop eating. There will be days and literally weeks that I will not really feel like eating whatever is there in front of me also. But I have to address my thoughts on everyday basis. I don't take my thoughts to bed. I'm not somebody who will sit on the bed, lie down, cry. I will not do that. I do that out of my room, because I don't want my brain to associate this environment, this room, as somewhere I can cry, where I can overeat, when I can do pretty much everything. So don't give your brain those cues.
Correct.
Step out of that environment. Don't associate with it. It really helps. It helps me a lot. And I think if we continuously
That's a great
do that,
point, Trishala.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
You know,
I
like
am somebody who would not go to food, but I would go to therapy, not because something really, really bad happened,
correct.
but because I like to hear my thoughts aloud. I like to
Yes.
just hear, like thoughts, the voices in my head, and just hearing out your own words in a safe, neutral space.
Correct.
That insight-based work, it really helps you sleep at peace.
It does. And I always tell this to my patients, that your room is not to do all this rona, dhuna, and eating on the bed and all. There are specific places designed for specific reasons. So please use that, finish it up over there, and then step into your environment that you have to. Really works. So with that, thank you,
sorry,
viewers.
One last but very point I remembered. Also, the importance of getting out of the house and just going.
Sorry, we lost you, Neha.
So going out of the house.
I think you mentioned sunshine.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. I'm saying I think you mentioned sunshine.
Yes, just to go out for a walk, be outdoors while you're
Correct.
thinking and feeling these big emotions,
Correct.
that really helps regulate nervous system like nothing, because when you are outdoors, you're compelled to use all your senses. Bring that.
Correct. Oh, yes.
Okay? So
Sorry,
just
we're losing you there, Neha.
don't. Okay, I said just don't bring Swiggy home. You get up and go somewhere.
Go to Swiggy, get it yourself.
Yes.
That's the best takeaway I think I'm going to take it from today. Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you to all our viewers for actually bearing with us for the last 1 hour. You've literally been very patient listeners. And this was my first live with Neha, covering a very, very important topic. Both of us, we want to tell you guys that you're not alone in your journeys. There is help available. Please reach out when you feel like. You will send it out to the universe and universe will guide you. So put it out there and you see the magic. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Neha. I'm very happy that we did this and I'm looking forward to covering more topics with you.
Thank you so much, Sushala.
Thank
Genuinely, thank you. Had a blast.
you. Take care. Bye.